Hello folks, I'm LA Little and this is your daily TA wrap. Well, we take a look at these markets and we do it from a neoclassical perspective each time, asking ourselves what happened today and what does it tell us about tomorrow. I do this show 4 times a week. I do it Monday through Thursday, live at 9 o'clock Eastern Time here from the base of the beautiful Rocky Mountains. Folks, glad you could join me. If you want to contact me, there's 3 ways, smiley face. You can either chat room, email, or text message me. These are the numbers, these are the places. That's the way to get a hold of me. As far as what happened today, last night we were talking about the probability of a bounce. Yep, bounce it was, bounce we got. Let's go to the numbers first. Not much of a bounce on the Dow. Dow was up 10. 16,256. The S&P's tacked on 7. 1851, almost 1852. Composite 33 higher, 4112. We had an NDX up a decent amount, actually the most, 3538. As big cap tech got bought 30.5 higher, that was about 0.87. The Russell 0.75% higher, 8.5, 1144. Gold traded up today on a weaker dollar. Dollar was down 6.65%, a little over 0.5%, almost 2/3%, 21.35 on the UUP. And gold got a spike out of that, $10 up, but you know, that's not that much when you really think about that kind of hammering on the dollar, and we'll see the gold chart here in a minute. We had oil up big, so commodities in general gained. And you know, when we take a look at what's happening with these markets, you know, we were talking last night about the probability of some sort of a bounce, and that is what we got, right? We got a bounce today. We got a push back up, test of the lows. You know, we're in the so-called danger zone, right? Because you got swing point lows all lined up nicely in a row down here at the bottom. That support zone runs across those. It tested into them today, pushed with decent volume. I mean, we pushed down there, what do we have, 37.2. And if we look at the numbers across there, 32, 37.3, 34. So you're pushing in there, you got pretty good volume, yet you just came down 3% off the highs, and you had bounces looking to happen elsewhere, which is what made us think that we probably would get some sort of bounce today. Was it a great bounce? No. Was it Was it destructive? No. I mean, you went in, you tested, you couldn't break it down, you bounced, right? We're going to come back to the S&P, but the area to watch on this is going to be up here. That's where the rubber's going to meet the road. If we go back, and let me clean the screen and then draw it from before, if you remember, we were talking about three zones before. We were talking about a zone down here, a zone up there, right, and then the one in the middle. And I didn't draw them out perfectly, but they're pretty close. So we were talking about there being three floors, right? There was a floor here, one. There was a floor down here, which was the third one, and there was the third one, or maybe you reverse those, right? Usually three's on top. We're testing into the lower floor. We didn't stay there, but we got into it. And matter of fact, I'm going to clean this up because now as I'm looking at it, I can see where I had that floor drawn before. I was using these lows and that set of highs, right? And then we had one here, and then we had the one on top. Okay, that one on top was a little bit lower. So those three floors are important. We're in the bottom floor. We're going to come right back up here and we're going to test back into that area. And that's going to be the key area on this test, right? Every other time we've seen this market sell off, it's been a sell-off V-shape, right? Sell-off back here, V-shape. Can we do the decline again like we got back here? And so far we've only got a small decline. Can we do that kind of decline again and come straight back up? Well, time and time again, that is what this market's done. And in particular, the latest one has been this, 4 steps straight up back to new highs. Can we do another new high move off of this? I told you last night, most people would want to hedge here, and, I can't say that I'm unlike most people because I want to hedge as well. But folks, I don't think it's going to do it this time. And the reason for it is not in this chart, but this will be the chart to watch because that's the area. We'll see how it attacks that. It's probably going to get into tomorrow, Thursday, Friday, sometime this week. And it's going to test in there. And we could get some more testing of the bottom before it's over with, this week, even tomorrow. Tomorrow you got the Fed minutes, and even though they don't expect to be a surprise, they always seem to be something that moves the market. We've also got earnings Thursday and Friday. I do expect to see them try to push this thing back up again. This is the strong one. The strong one's the one you want to watch as you're coming back up to see how it behaves. Let's go to the weaker ones and look at those guys. If we go to the NASDAQ. Okay, so the NASDAQ, the NDX, actually the NDX didn't do it. The Russell and the NASDAQ did. They did inside days on lower volume, so it's a low volume bounce inside. Doesn't really tell you anything. The NASDAQ was unable to get back over that Feb 3 bar. Top of the guy's 41.1355. We closed just underneath it. Now, as you see on the NDX, there you actually got back over it. Right? NDX, big cap, got back over it. Although, if I look at what was inside there, and I haven't done this today, APPL, right? Apple, no, what is it? AAPL. And Apple did a little reversal. Apple's still trading in the 520 range. Let me see, what were the other ones? Microsoft. I'm just going to take the big three. And Microsoft actually did hold up there today. How about Google? Google and, oh nice. Well, that one ain't going to do as much good. They still, this is 4 days later, they still haven't gotten a reset on Google stock. No vendor. I've looked at 5 different ones. And I had to mock our own data up to be able to just get a chart to watch. It's amazing. I don't know what the problem is. I mean, it's not like it was a surprise. Everybody's known this was coming for 3 months. So Google got a nice pop up, no volume, right? So you're getting a push up, but there's no volume in it. So I'm not exactly thrilled by what I'm seeing in most of the big cap technology. And if I go over to the one that's kind of the poster child for this decline, the IBB, this is the third time, well, the second time it's undercut, and this time on a lot less volume. This one does look like it's going to get a bounce. It's going to have problems when it gets into this bar. That's the March 24th bar. But it does look like it finally will get some sort of a bounce out of here. And I believe that is what's going to help the NDX, going to help the markets get, 2-3 day bounce out of this thing. I said it last night, I'll say it again. You don't particularly like when the bounce is a result of the fact that nobody wants to sell anymore versus they really want to buy. And I believe it's nobody wants to sell anymore. In other words, they feel like it's just a little bit too cheap here. Given the history, given the way things have been, you're selling these things quote unquote too cheap. I don't think that it's going to fly this time, but so far, that seems to be the feel here, and that's what at least that's my sense of what's happening with these charts, and given the way I'm seeing these markets trade. Let's go look at the sectors right quick. Look at IYT. If you flip through these sectors and look at most of them, you had reversals on a few. IYT is one of them. So what I mean by reversal is you go under, you go back over. It's not really that extended, but it's certainly an under-over situation. I don't know if I'd call it a 2-bar at this point. But you had it here. You had it on XLF. Also had it on the XLI, right? And all these struggled, but they got their little under-overs going. Most places, or not most places, but elsewhere, you've kind of got these ranges still going on, like the XLB, and the XLE, which is probably the strongest one. That was an inside day, but it's still a nice range up there. XLE is actually probably the place you want to look if you really want to go long something. XLY was an inside day, but that's actually a pretty weak one, so I'm not that excited about it. That XLV is kind of living in his own nightmare now after going up for so much. That's a break of 2 swing points today. That says it's going to continue to put pressure on this particular index. And even if IBB bounces, it doesn't look like it's going to carry everything in the XLV with it. What's most noticeable today, and we'll have to see if it continues, is safety. XLP. Yeah, they like that. XLU. New highs. Right? One of the members is picking on this group, got a nice run out of it today. And then if I go over to the aux markets, TLT, well, they couldn't even sell that off. How about something as moribund as the municipals? We're going to go back up and test the highs here as well. Safety, folks, is where they are moving their money. And they're moving their money into what they believe is going to protect them, right, from a market that looks just a little bit more dangerous than it has recently. But we are going to bounce a little bit more, and it's not just because of our markets, it's because of the other markets, right? Those over yonder. So if I go over to Europe to start with, and we'll start with the weakest one, FTSE. The FTSE comes back, right? If we look at this guy, he's coming into some nice bars that showed some good volume, right? And you got one right there. The other one was up above. It just barely stayed under it. Volume expanded, but nothing like what it came into. That looks to me like it's going to hold that area and try to shoot back the other way. That could potentially set up some sort of an ABCD structure. That's not really true because it's too deep, so it's not going to have one. So at best, this is some sort of a range. Question of where the range is, but FTSE looks like it wants to bounce. If I go to the next weakest one, or strongest one, I guess, the middle one, if you will, let's see here, the DAX. Let's get the right symbol in, GD, AXI. And if we look at the DAX also came back in. Remember, we were looking for it to come back into this big bar. Got there, right? Nice reversal on the day. This thing wants to bounce back the other way. Now remember, these all had done ABCD structures and had overextended them. Okay, so they'd already ran farther, they got a pullback, now they're going to try to run back up there. What I would be watching on the way back up is, can they actually bounce and bounce heavy or not, right? Here's the resistance zone. We'll see what they do tonight. Tonight will be the test over there. And then the strongest one, which is, the miracle worker, is the CAX. And the CAX comes back in. We were talking about this one doing a retest regen. The retest regen is off of that swing point high, comes into it, almost gets to the bottom, and got about where we thought it would actually. Does a nice reversal, still inside when it looks like it's going to regen and try to go higher. And so a regen higher out of here actually would be an ABCD structure. That would take it quite a bit higher if in fact that's what it's going to do. Do note, volume expanded as it came back into that area, and it was definitely more than the breakout area. And if we do the volumes on it, here you did 1.4, almost 1.5. That bar had 1.57, so it hit it, but with pretty good volume. That says it may not get back over and generate. It may come back and test again, because when you hit it with close, almost the same, it's not nearly as strong coming out of there. And so this one will be one to watch, especially since it's been the leader in Europe. If we go to Asia, Hong Kong came back, lights on, right? Back, spiking higher. This is the Hong Kong H shares traded on the, this is the Chinese H shares, the Shanghai H shares traded on the Hong Kong exchange, going after the swing point high, pushing it with volume. Did a little bit of a rest in here, right? And now a nice big push up. And if you look at the Hong Kong index itself, it looks pretty much the same sort of action. A little bit of a extension, a little pullback, now bouncing back up. Tonight, let's see if they break their ABCD structures to the upside. And if so, that's going to continue to put juice into those markets. So if you're looking for that EEM trade, if you will, I didn't look at the EEM today, but I suspect it was up. And it actually is a failure at the top. That will be interesting. That looks like, at least the Chinese markets look like they're going to try to go higher. Then you have Brazil, which is in a world of its own. So Brazil goes up about 25%. What is it, BVSP? Nonstop, not 25, 45, 50%, right? Nonstop. So that's 44 to 52. I was looking at the EWZ when I was doing it. So that's 45 roughly to 52. That's 7,000, right? 7,045. That's that's about 7%, right? 6-7%. And I have no idea, now that I say that, why these track so terribly. Because that's, am I doing the numbers wrong? It can't be that much off. That's 39 to 48. That's 9, right? 9 on 39 is, that's 25%. Okay, there we go. Yeah, I don't know where I got the 40%. 25% over here. Whereas on the index itself, it's not that much. The index itself is up 7%. So why the disparity, I can't tell you. Maybe, maybe there's short squeeze going on here because it can be traded domestically. I don't know. Something's not tracking. I haven't looked at this makeup compared to, a lot of times the makeup in these doesn't match, and I've seen that elsewhere. It doesn't match what's really in the index in terms of the weighting structure. But anyway, you got a big move up, right? Volume expands again. Reversal closes under it. Does have more volume, so it can test again tomorrow. But take a look. Let's go back to the Bovespa itself, BVSP, and look at this one though. volume expands, right? This is the second time you've had huge volume expansion. This time you have a reversal long tail on the top. To me, that is a short-term top, right? And that says this thing's going to probably range trade for a while. So you have this huge move, right? You've got a range trade at least there, but more than likely back to here. So if this thing rallies tomorrow based on strength elsewhere, which it has a good possibility of doing so, one might want to think about shorting this market. You know, if you got a margin account, you go short it. That looks like an interesting one. Let's see. That was I wanted to talk about Japan. So, you know, the magic of Japan seems to be dissipating. And if for a while there, it didn't matter what they did. They went up. Here's the daily. You're stuck in this range down here at this lower level. The Bank of Japan didn't spill any more yen on the markets. You got a mid-range here and it's back in the lower side, right? If I pull this back and look at it on the weekly, the Japanese market went up and basically did a double top, right? It went up, tested that top, had no volume up here at the end of the year. Got over it, closed the year at a high, and it's been struggling ever since. And now this market, just like our market, but on an intermediate term time frames, has set up multiple swing points down here on the lows. And so if we look at those multiple swing points and we think about, you know, how this is going to work, folks, if this comes down and breaks, there ain't nothing but air underneath here. I mean, I can't see any real support until we get back into these bars and these, right? Which takes you back at least to there, right? That big range in here. So this Japanese market, it better find itself, or at least trade this range long enough before it can break out again. But if it breaks down, this thing could get a heavy push down, and I don't know how the world's going to view a Japanese coming unwound again, especially when it's quantitative easing to the 10th, you know, to the 10th power. These guys are pouring it on. It was a miracle worker, but it looks like the miracle worker is about done. So that looks, you know, we'll see what it does, but it doesn't look particularly enticing to me. We had the dollar weaker today, I said earlier. And if you look at the dollar, here's the dollar index, it's still, you know, can't do anything. If you look at it here, a big snap back down today. All that work it did, lost, right? Back down the other way. That should help your gold market. If we go look at gold, though, gold could hardly move. Gold's coming into these big bars now. Resistance zones up here. That low is 126.16. It was playing with it all day today. Closes underneath it. Does 6.9 million shares. Add 9.3 there. That looks like a failure. Looks to me like it's going to come back. It also was coming into this bar, fell on that one as well. We had a member asking about this today. You know, now the way it closed, I think he's right. You know, this ABCD structure that played out is done. Now you got to bounce off of that one. You got another potential one that could set up, and it looks like to me it's going to try to work its way back down there. This is going to be the big area on the way back, right? If you can't hold that area, well, you're back to the lows again probably. So gold's got a big test coming up, and it failed on the upside. And that was a retest regen. We talk about retest regen a lot, right? And the reason for it is it really is a critical component. And the neoclassical is the only place that we really talk about it and measure it the way we do. And it gives you significant clues as to what's happening. And when you see this, you can see that this has done what it was supposed to do, and it appears as if this retest and attempt to regenerate, right, back down, is going to do exactly that. So as long as it, you know, can't get back over the area that it's retesting, that says who's in control, right? You always want to know who's in control. In this case, it is the bears, right? The bears are the ones in control as long as this market cannot break through the prior swing point low it broke as it broke down. That's what this tells you, right? Here's the retest. That's a failure. Okay. Let's see if you get any questions over here. None there. Let me check my email and my text to make sure nobody snuck one in on me there. And I don't see one there in the text. Nothing on the text either. Okay, so cool. Let's think about what's coming. Today is Tuesday. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, right? 3 more days to go. Earnings just started. And I didn't check. Let me see what Alcoa did after hours. It was the first report of earnings. Let me get it in here. So Alcoa. And let's pop it up so we can see where it closed. And it closed, so it's up. It's 12.86 after hours. Closed at 12.53, so that's up about 33 cents. That's about 3%. That's a pretty good move. And this one actually was set up well for an earnings play as it came back in to a nice support area. So that one looks good. Tomorrow we got, let me see what the earnings look like, because the big names I believe come out Thursday and Friday, if I remember right. Okay, so we got Alcoa tonight, Bed Bath & Beyond tomorrow. Let's see what that one looks like. And this one has been struggling. And if I go to the weekly, it broke down a couple earnings back, I believe, yeah. So that was the breakdown. Actually, that was the January breakdown. So that was off of earnings. So it bounces back up. On a weekly, that retest regen is this bar. So that's 71.47 is the low. And it hasn't tested into it yet. Let's see what it's set up to do now. Yeah, that looks like it's going to try to bounce into earnings. They actually have earnings in the morning. So just like Alcoa, this is set up not bad for earnings. That one looks like it can go higher. FDO comes out on Thursday. And Family Dollar, which had been a big hit for a long time, they've been getting sold off though. Let's see what the weekly looks like. That doesn't look healthy at all. So that one I do not think is going to get helped. Yeah, it can bounce a little bit, but I don't see how it does. The big numbers are Friday. JPM, so JP Morgan, that's the weekly. Let me put the monthly up. Nice steady rise. Starting to roll a little bit on the monthly. Let's go back to the daily now. And so big volume push, you close, you test. This is not set up bad either. So they talk down everything into earnings. And Wells Fargo, to me, is actually a better one. Let's see what it looks like. And it's doing the same thing, just stronger. These are not set up bad. So, we're probably going to get some sort of weakness in the next 3 days inside this bounce. Friday looks like it's set up pretty well to try to go higher, as long as those banks don't run right back up to the top in front of the earnings. As long as they hang down here, maybe even crawl down a little bit more, then that sets them up well to get some sort of a bounce. General markets, to me, look like they want to bounce a little bit more. How far? That's hard to say. I think the real test that you should watch is over here on the GSBC, as I pointed out at the top of the show, top of this bar. That will be the interesting part. So 1863, 1874. You get over 1874, I guess I'd have to change my mind. I think that's kind of the area that I would think that it's going to be hard to get over. CLF, FX, FCX, Tommy asked about. Let's see, CLF, Natural Resources. Yeah, I don't know. That doesn't do much for me. Let me see the weekly. Those look like dead cat bounces. FCX, big copper gold producer, also looks like a dead cat bounce. Let's see what the weekly, the daily looks like. Same sort of thing. Now this one's actually set up interesting the way it's coming back, but boy, you gotta get over the swing point highs that make the believer out of me. You're just back up in the resistance and testing, so had some decent volume today. What is JJC doing? Copper. You're getting a bounce. It looks almost the same chart, right? Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't play in that space myself. Okay, I'm out of time. I'll have to leave it at that. I'll check with you tomorrow. Looks to me like a little bit more of a bounce coming. Probably over the next 2 to 3 days with some sort of weakness mixed in there somewhere. Tomorrow, maybe the next day. Have a great one. Thanks a lot. Take care of yourself. I'll see you next time. Until then, I'm LA. This is and was your daily TA wrap. Have yourself a great night, and I'll see you next time. Good night.